Some stories aren't really about what we gain, but about what we're willing to pay. And sometimes, the biggest deals, they happen in the dead of night, when the rest of the world is sound asleep, but our own ambition is wide awake.
So, let's talk about Karim. This guy, he didn't build his empire on some inheritance or a lucky break. Nope. It was built on pure, relentless drive. His foundation wasn't made of money. It was this unbreakable will to win. To really get this story, we have to understand the man. What does it actually take to build an entire empire from absolutely nothing?
Okay, get this. At 22, all he had to his name was a mountain of debt and a secondhand laptop. While everyone else's age was out partying, he was in, just poring over the markets, trying to learn their secrets. By the time he was 30, that obsession had turned into a firm, and by 35, it had turned into millions.
And this is what really tells you who he was. When the entire world economy was practically on its knees, investors were panicking, companies were just collapsing left and right, Karim didn't feel that fear. He saw a clearing, a chance to buy, to build, and to profit from all that chaos.
And then it happened. The moment that changed absolutely everything. See, success that's built on ambition, that's one thing. But success built on a secret? Well, that's something else entirely.
The time is so specific, isn't it? 3:17 a.m. It's not just late, it's unsettlingly precise. An email just appears out of nowhere. No sender, no signature. Just one single impossible sentence.
Just imagine that landing in your inbox. A promise so bold it's almost ridiculous. But for a guy like Karim, someone who lives for that next big jump, it was completely irresistible. And so he replied. Of course he did. Every single instinct that had made him a millionaire was screaming at him to go for it. The risk was a total unknown, but the reward, it was everything he'd ever dreamed of. And just like that, he took his first step into the shadows. So the meeting happens in the skeleton of an unfinished skyscraper, overlooking the whole city. And the offer is laid out plain and simple. On one side of the deal, perfect information, the power to literally know what the market was going to do next. And on the other side, a simple, terrifyingly vague IOU. One single favor, to be named later. The results were insane, immediate and just absolute. His wealth didn't just grow, it detonated. Every single move he made was flawless. He went from a millionaire to a financial legend overnight. The world thought he was a visionary, but he knew the truth. He was just reading from a script. But a debt is always a debt, even if there's no paperwork. And the interest on this one, well, it wasn't paid in money. It was paid in his own peace of mind. These strange little reminders started to happen. The lights in his penthouse would just flicker on every night at exactly 3:17 a.m. His security cameras would glitch out for no reason. And then, the worst part, he'd catch a glimpse of a shadow in a reflection, just for a second. He knew he lived alone. The deal was always there with him. And then, just like before, an email came through. But this one was different. This wasn't an offer. It was a collection notice. So here we are, the undefined favor. That blank check he signed all that time ago is about to be cashed. And the price is going to be ruin. 2 words. That was it. Attached to the email was a list of huge companies, pillars of the entire economy. And the instruction wasn't to buy or sell. The instruction was to shatter them, to start a panic, to collapse the market, and to get rich from the rubble. For the very first time in his life, Karim hesitated. His entire career was built on being aggressive. But this was something else. This wasn't about beating a competitor. This was about deliberately destroying jobs, savings, livelihoods for thousands and thousands of people who'd done nothing wrong. As he sat there, totally paralyzed by this choice, his laptop screen just flared to life. And from the empty air in his office, a voice, just a whisper, that made everything crystal clear. This wasn't a new decision. It was just the final price for a choice he'd made a long, long time ago. And that was the truth of it all. The man in the skyscraper wasn't some devil that tempted him. He was a mirror. He just showed Karim what was already there. Every company he'd crushed in the crisis, every person he'd dismissed for a shot at profit, he had been choosing this path all along. So, knowing this awful truth about himself, what does a man like Karim do? What's the final move when you finally realize the game was rigged by you? He refused the order. As the markets opened that day, he didn't crash them. He did the exact opposite. He went public, with everything. The secret information, the corruption, his own part in it all. He chose to crash himself instead.
The fallout was immediate. The empire he'd spent his entire life building just vanished in a few days. He lost every cent. He was a social outcast, facing a massive investigation. And for the first time since he was 22 years old, he slept straight through the night.
Months later, one last message popped up on his screen at that all-too-familiar time. It wasn't a threat. It was just a final statement, a simple truth he had paid his entire fortune to finally understand.
He was finally free, not just from the deal, but from the man he used to be. The debt was paid for real this time. And it kind of leaves you wondering, right? What are the hidden deals in our own lives?